Anybody that's been paying attention to Valve news over the last month knows that Valve has published a brand new website redesign, and this new redesign has a lot of little hints and details towards the future of the company. A lot of hardware, a lot of hints towards the fact that they still make games. Doesn't mean they finish games, but interestingly, right when they published the website at first, it went down a few hours later and remained offline for a couple of days. But now, as of recording this video, the website is back online with a few changes. Most notably the jobs and people sections of the website, where the job links actually work and show quite a few different openings from many different game design areas, and the people section reorganizing the different lists, including new lists, but still having the other experts for people like Dario Casali and Dave Riller. Why? On April 20th, 2018, Valve was forced to pay $3 million to the ACL, or Australian Consumer Law, due to, according to the courts, Valve engaging in misleading or deceptive conduct and making false or misleading representations to Australian consumers about their rights under consumer guarantees. All of this have to do with the Steam refund system. Now, note that this court case started in 2016, and since then, many improvements have been made to the refund and Steam support policies. In other Valve Money news, Valve is now paying people to hack any of their services. Valve has opened up a bounty program on HackerOne.com. Anybody can submit a Steam security vulnerability to Valve, and depending on the severity of that vulnerability, can be rewarded between $100 and an unknown amount of money. As of recording, $118,800 have been paid out. As reported earlier this month, Valve is now allowing any games on Steam to be streamed to iOS and Android-based devices. Called the Steam Link app, this is one of the most interesting moves Valve has made in 2018 thus far. And a few days ago, the Android version of the Steam Link app has gone into beta. I'm currently working on a whole write-up review, but to sum up my current opinion, this is incredible and is also the best use of the Steam in-home streaming so far. And on May 14th, the Steam VR platform received a major beta update in the form of Steam VR Input. Essentially, this allows players to remap their controllers in any way possible on an app-per-app basis. But as interesting as remapping controllers can be, that's not the most important part of this story. This was a major Steam VR update, and as we've learned in the past, every single major update usually comes with some extra leaks. There were some interesting things found. The first being skeletal tracking. Now, there's no information on exactly what this is supposed to be. However, the code itself refers to it as get skeletal action data. There is no definition for what skeletal data means within this context, and exactly how specific Valve plans on tracking a skeleton has no information on it. This is the first time anything about skeletal tracking has been seen, to my knowledge. The second thing found were these. These are VR gloves, as the game's internal files call them. If you play a lot of Counter-Strike, you can tell that these just look like a repainted version of some of the gloves that you can get in-game. But in reality, these are mapped, rigged, and animated controller view models for people playing in VR, with each individual finger being controlled by some input device. It's pretty much assumed that this has more to do with Valve's Knuckles VR prototype controllers that we've known about since 2016, as each individual finger is tracked on those devices. The gloves themselves are mentioned many times throughout the game's code, and there were a couple of really large model files added within the last few beta updates within May. While on the topic, Valve has also filed full patents for the Knuckles controllers, and also seen within this update are references to a second generation or second revision of the Knuckles controllers based on the legacy and VR compositor bindings. Now, if you remember back in February when I did my interview with Gabe Newell, he talked about how they're developing hardware in conjunction with their games and software. So it's no surprise that we don't have a consumer version of the Knuckles. However, these have been in development for so long that they have continued to iterate on their own design. They have a second generation of a controller that never released in the first place. And also seen within the many beta updates throughout the last month is this line: enable motion on Fizz Cannon Grab. This also applies to the HLVR hand interaction. This is the first time we have seen anything related to HLVR in the year of 2018, and this was added in late April. This was alongside a lot of different information on VR, and I have done quite a bit of digging within the many different beta updates that have released in both April and May. There is a lot of development on both the game side and the general purpose use side of VR. We have known about Valve developing their own VR experiences for close to 2 years now. We have known about Valve developing 3 full VR titles for close to a year and a half now, and we have no official information on any of it. However, if you've at all been paying attention to Steam VR, Destinations, The Lab, or Source 2 in general, there has been an absurd amount of work being done within the VR version of Source 2. So I really would like to know, where are my VR games? Oh, and also, Metal Jesus Rocks just uploaded an hour-and-a-half long interview with Gabe Newell and Robin Walker from 1998, 2 weeks before Half-Life went gold. Holy crap. And just so you people stop sending it to me, there is a new depot up on Steam, according to SteamDB, called Half-Life 3 for beta testing. This is like the 4th time this has happened since I've started this channel, and I just want to put it out there so people stop sending it to me. Anybody can make one of these. This doesn't mean anything, and is likely absolutely nothing. So now I'm going to be doing something a bit different. In Team Fortress News Network and Counter-Strike News Network, I have community catch-up mini-segments where I talk about the different interesting community-made content for both of those games. And for Valve Catch-Up or Valve News Network or whatever you want to call this, I'd like to do something similar, but there's not a whole lot of quote-unquote community-made stuff that would just fall under the umbrella of Valve and VR and generalist Steam business news. So I had an idea. Why not report and do very small reviews of some of the recently released very small indie VR games that I've played over the last month or so. So I'm going to try that out. If you like this format, let me know. And if you're at all interested in virtual reality, keep in mind that most, if not all of the games that I talk about each time I do one of these are compatible with the Windows Mixed Reality headsets. You can get those on Amazon for $200. I'm looking at the Dell Vista virtual reality headset on Amazon used for $208. So getting into VR is getting very cheap, and I'll do a video on beginner's guide to virtual reality, but these are the games I've played this month that I really feel like people need to talk about, other than Beat Saber. Beat Saber is like one of the biggest runaway successes for VR thus far, and if you don't know what it is, it's a VR rhythm-based game. The big tagline that most games journalists are throwing around is that it's Guitar Hero meets Star Wars. You have these lightsaber-looking things, and you beat different squares in certain directions in rhythm to music, and it's the most fun I've ever had playing virtual reality, period. There are other games that came out this month that are worth talking about. First is a game called Compound, created by a guy named Bevan McKechnie, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. This is a retro-stylized, roguelike first-person shooter in virtual reality. What do I mean by that? Well, it's very simplistic level design. It's all a flat plane with a randomly generated essential dungeons that you have to walk through. You have to clear out each floor, and then you get to move on to the next quote-unquote floor, and you continue up until you die. You get different guns as you move forward. The enemies get more difficult as you continue on. This game is simple. The premise is quite overdone in the pancake space or the non-VR space, but in VR, there's something about the atmosphere, there's something about the soundtrack, there's something about the stylized graphics that just hook me. I've played a lot of Compound over the last few weeks. Next is a game called Paws and Claws VR by Goa Games. This is a very basic tower defense game with cats and dogs fighting each other, and I've had a lot of fun playing this game, but I have quite a few gripes about it as well. Now, that doesn't mean I'm trying to detract anybody from supporting this indie developer. It just, the game needs a little more polish, especially if this isn't an early access title. I feel like there needs to be a little more music, there needs to be a little bit more going on in terms of the gameplay itself. Just generally with tower defense games, a lot of the game is supposed to play itself. I feel like being able to figure out a way to give the player more of an active role would really improve this game, but as it stands right now, it's an interesting concept. A tower defense game in VR with this kind of theming is very interesting and very much for the whole family, if you would like to say. I enjoyed it. I recommend it. Maybe not for the $15 price tag, but there is a free demo. Try it out, see what you think. Next is another game called Fruit for the Village, which is one of the more interesting titles that I've played this month. And this game is about growing food to be able to send up to a village that is starving because of the village's food supply slowly depleting. The game builds on itself as you go on, kind of like a cookie clicker in my head, but maybe that's not the developer's intentions. The Steam page for the game says that there is a large story mode that is an incremental story. It all unfolds as you continually play the game. The graphics are phenomenal, very stylized, the atmosphere and mood is incredible, and the only gripe that I had with the demo is that it doesn't really tell you how you're supposed to play the game. A lot has to be inferred, and at first, I was quite overwhelmed. But it is a very well put together game. And lastly, I played a game called Bam Squad. This is essentially Left 4 Dead 2 meets Minecraft. This is a cooperative VR zombie-based survival shooter, and I have had a lot of fun playing with friends within this game. The design itself is very much like Left 4 Dead 2's survival mode, as the enemies themselves are actually a wave-based system. Instead of point A to point B being the absolute main focus, the game is a lot like Call of Duty Zombies or Left 4 Dead 2's survival mode, where you have to eventually upgrade your character enough to be able to get to the end of the levels, but the majority of the enemies spawn through waves. You have in-between wave times to be able to upgrade, you earn currency by playing well, you have to work together as a team, and the only gripe that I have about this game is that there are no AI-controlled bots. I don't know if the difficulty scales based on the number of people playing, but if you do not have a full 4-person team, they don't give you extra bots to hit that 4 players. You just play with the number of people that you currently have. It's a great game though, I really recommend it, and is one of the more surprising games to not get any attention. $15, early access, it's on the Steam Marketplace. I really recommend this one. Did I miss anything? Are there any games that you feel like I should check out, or are you an indie developer that would like to be able to get some more attention onto your projects? If you want to be able to get in contact with me, my email is down in the description below, and I just want more people playing VR, because it's becoming very affordable, and the software is starting to really impress me. So, thanks for watching, guys. I love you. Also, if you could, please follow me on Twitter. I tweet every day about the channel and Valve, and if you want extra information that may not get featured in a video, I mean, come on, follow me on Twitter, please? Please?